Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you to the third edition of the 2024 lecture series. This is our 12th year that we are doing this lecture series, and we are very, very glad to have a dear friend and a fellow naturalist, Parag Rangnekar, today with us. He's going to take us onto a fantastic journey. You're going to be mesmerized by his stories, by his experiences, and of course, the photography. Uh, Parag and we go a long way back and we've been interacting at various levels, whether it's in field. Recently, we met him in Goa when we were doing the School of Western Ghats. And even in the short 1 hour period that the participants were there, they all absolutely fell in love with his presentation and the knowledge that he has. So thank you, Parag, for accepting our invitation at such short notice and being with us. And we look forward to you bringing back more stories from your trip to Nagaland. I believe that you are leaving tomorrow too. So I invite Rahul Palekar, my colleague, to give a formal introduction of our today evening's speaker. Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you so much. I would like to introduce Mr. Parag Rangnekar to the audience. Parag Rangnekar, an ecologist in Goa, specializes in documenting butterflies, dragonflies, and community-driven conservation. He holds positions on the Goa State Biodiversity Board and Goa Tourism Board, and is part of the Invertebrate Conservation Information Network for South Asia. As the founding president of the Goa Bird Conservation Network, Parag has received the Lead Fellowship and Lokmat Gaurav Puraskar. He works for the Mineral Foundation of Goa and owns Mrugaya Expeditions, offering wildlife tours and Mrugaya Nature Retreat in Amboli. Parag has authored 15 research papers, described 2 new odonate species, and authored books on Goan birds and butterflies, receiving recognition for his contributions to responsible tourism and sustainable travel. With that, I would like to hand over the virtual stage to Mr. Rangnekar, and the stage is yours.
One quick query, Parag, before we start. Would you prefer the questions to come in between or would you like them at the end? How would you prefer?
Whichever, I'm okay with both. I'm okay with both. Yeah.
So if anybody has a question, I request them to type it in the chat, and then either Rahul or me or my colleague Komal, one of us, we will, read out the question and then we'll request Parag. So if it's, topical about that species that he's showing or etc., we'll take it at that point of time. Otherwise, we'll reserve all the questions at the end. Okay. So over to you, Parag.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Sprouts and especially Anand for inviting me. And nice to see Arundhati. Arundhati, at the before we log out, would like to see how you look. So we've been here since we have met. So nice to have you here. Before I continue, I'll just for bandwidth, there's a problem with the Wi-Fi, so I'm on my mobile hotspot. So I'll stop the video and I'll continue with the talk. All right. So, for those of you who have explored forests, I don't mean on safari tours, but those who have walked forests, maybe in the day, in the night, probably would know what kind of impact, the forests have on us humans. I would personally like to believe that forests have shaped me. They have molded me, and whatever I do today is because of the relationship that I share with the forests. Having said that, we know that everything is not going well for our forests. As we speak, trees are being cut, forests are being diverted, and so on and so forth. It's a continuous battle for many of the conservationists, people like Anand, doing what they do. But I think that all this actually stems from the absence or, not having that connect with the forest. I think if probably all these guys who take these decisions had a connect that, I share or many of you share with the forest, probably they would be mindful of what they do. So today's presentation is about, bringing or rather showcasing the biodiversity or wildlife of Goa through my eyes. I mean, that's how I see them, and probably hope that many of the participants, will establish that connect. If at all it doesn't exist, I'm sure I know that it would exist, that connect, would exist in many of you. But yeah, so that's the grounding of what I'm going to present today. My presentation is obviously focused around Goa because that's where I work. And so let me check if I'm okay. Just let me know, Anand, if any of the slides don't show up, or if I'm not audible, please. So Goa is, no,
Parag,
I'm sure.
a little
Yeah.
louder if you can, please, sir. Yeah.
All right. Sure. Yeah, so Goa, means so many things to, means different things to different people. Um, including, I guess, our first prime minister saying, that Goa ke log ajeeb hai and all that, I mean, that's been said so many times. But Goa is unique. Goa is different, and there is, from somebody who likes forest, who likes, the wilds. Uh, Goa is unique from that perspective. One, primarily and most importantly, because of its placement within the Western Ghats. In the entire Western Ghat landscape, Goa is uniquely placed. One, because it is at the transition zone between the northern and the southern Sahyadris. Um, the geology changes, as you enter Goa and as you go down south, because the geology changes, the associated, flora changes, and because the flora changes, the associated, fauna also changes. So you see this change happening, as you move from north to south, and that change is centered somewhere around Goa. So that makes Goa, unique in terms of its ecology. Another interesting part of or uniqueness about Goa is that, historically it's while the rest of the country, Goa was a Portuguese colony. So I think many of you know that the British were quite interested in natural history, and they documented, from the largest mammal to the smallest insect. Unfortunately, the Portuguese, I guess, were not too keen, and they were not really interested. And that has, also probably, I mean, we jokingly sometimes say that disinterest in the Portuguese has probably rubbed off on its subjects. That's us. So post liberation also, after 1961 also, there have been very few, systematic studies done on Goa. So within the, again, Western Ghat landscape, if you look at Goa from the natural history perspective, it's like a dark spot. I mean, from ecologist point of view, it's also a gold mine. It's a place where, you can actually do a lot of surveys, maybe find new things like how we have found, and I'll show you a few. But yes, natural history has been a neglected subject, pre-liberation and post-liberation as well. So that's, it's not a great thing to have, but it's Goa is unique from that perspective as well. With that background in mind, I sometimes ask myself, and I see this in many of the meetings that I attend, that how do we take, any decision for that matter, whether it's conservation decision or developmental decisions, without having baselines in place. Luckily, through the Goa State Biodiversity Board, at present, PBRs are being done across the 191 panchayats in Goa, and we will have some kind of baseline. But again, what we really need is institutionalized systematic surveys. It's just a small state. I think the smallest state in the country, 3,702 square kilometers. Another unique part of Goa now is that there is a altitudinal dip. We speak about the Palekar Gap, which is a proper physical gap within the Western Ghats. But now ecologists are also speaking about the Goa Gap. One is because there's this change in, the physical as well as the, biological diversity, of course. But also there is this, altitudinal dip. For example, if you are, in northern, for example, Mahabaleshwar is around 1,000 meters. As you slowly, come into Goa, altitude starts dipping. Our highest peak is 1,021 meters above sea level, which is, bordering Karnataka. our average altitude is around 600 meters. And as you go down south, further into Karwar and then, towards your Nagaroe, not Nagaroe, sorry, uh, sorry, why can't I get the name? Kudremukh, sorry. Kudremukh, the altitudes again start increasing, so there's this altitudinal dip, if you have a look at a cross section. So that also makes Goa unique. Also, the Western Ghats are the closest to the sea in this stretch of the Western Ghats. In some cases, if you look at the map, down south, somewhere in Kankon, Kotigaon Century, and then into Karwar, some of the offshoots of the Western Ghats actually jut into the sea. So you have the southern bird wing right on the coast. You have many of the Western Ghat species endemics right on the coast. So all this I think has influenced Goa's ecology and the wildlife. We have around 11 small and big rivers originating in our ghats and feeding the entire state. 6 wildlife sanctuaries and 1 national park. That's a huge chunk of protected area. Our entire eastern stretch is a contiguous patch of protected forest. And then it's of course connected with the reserve forests of Maharashtra in the north and the Kali Tiger Reserve in Karnataka. I think probably after the Bandipur, Nagaroe, that huge contiguous patch, I think within South India, this probably would be the biggest protected area network. So that's a good thing. Around more than 20% of Goa's geographical area is covered by protected area. So I mean that's the background to what Goa is and why it's so unique. This is a typical northern Western Ghat landscape. So this, if you are in the north of Goa, let's say, people who are familiar with the geography of Goa, let's say you're in the Mahadevi Wildlife Sanctuary, this is the typical, landscape that you would see. Hello. And then we have these lateritic plateaus. So we have the Western Ghats, on the east. Then in between we have these lateritic plateaus. They're different from the typical tabletops that you would see, in the small places. Some of them, the sadas as we call them, one of them actually juts into the sea. So that's makes Goa really, really unique. Some of the sadas actually, and many places, where for example, the airport in Goa is on a lateritic plateau, and it juts out into the sea. So for again, just to give you a reference for people who have traveled into Goa, I think one of the ecosystems which has been not really well understood, or wrongly understood as barren areas and stuff like that. We all know that they are much more biodiverse, in terms of the diversity that they hold compared to even a forested area. Also the most pressurized, all our industrial estates in Goa are based on lateritic plateaus. All our housing is coming up on lateritic plateaus. So I don't think, except for 1 or 2 patches here and there, most of our lateritic plateaus face huge anthropogenic pressures. And then as you move down south, you will get these, you don't see those exposed plateaus anymore. You see nice lush evergreen and moist deciduous, forests. And then further south, just as you are bordering Karnataka, you see these grassland tops. Lateritic plateaus, on hilltops get replaced by grassy, hilltops. So one of our, botany mentors, Dr. Janardhanam, actually has referred to this as the northern limits of the Shola forests. Many of the floral species that you find in the Shola forest also, are seen here. So that is the kind of transition that's happening. Northern Western Ghats has those. I mean, the northern part of Goa has these typical lateritic plateaus, and then as you come down south, they are replaced by this grassy top. So that's makes again Goa very, 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 very unique. Then, like I said, 11 rivers for a small area, small and big rivers, and we've got some amazing riparian habitats, and obviously the associated species. Then we have your swamp forests, myristica. Everywhere it's not myristica, but these are some beautiful swamp forests that we have as well. This is the data from the Zoological Survey of India's 2008 report. Of course, there have been updates and changes to this, but this is a published record from the fauna of Goa of the Zoological Survey of India. Now, one glance at some of the, just the list, and then you realize that so many tags are missing. Where are the beetles, for example, the largest group within insects? Where are the moths? And so on and so forth. Even I think when it comes to birds, the list is growing. Right now, as we speak, even in 2024, there have been new records for the state. Bird list stands at 490. So that's quite impressive. We have been able to document, butterflies and dragonflies also. So this is the status as of now. This is right now ZSI is also, with the Biodiversity Board working on a new fauna series. So we'll see a update happening in this as well. Lot of new species from Goa. Like I was saying, because it's ecologically, unique, we are finding a lot of new species here. And it's just not fauna, flora as well. Dipkadi, we have Dipkadi goans, which is found only in Goa till date. I'm described probably 10, 12 years back, but we have not found, or anybody else has not found any population outside the state. That makes it, and again, grows on lateritic plateaus. It's a seasonal herb. Yeah, Anand, you're saying something?
Yeah, somebody's asked a question. What are the numbers in the brackets referring to?
Oh, okay. Those are the new records that I have, found. So just a reference. Thanks for asking that. Yeah, so Dipkadi, this is an interesting story. This was described from a plateau in the foothills of the Ghats by Dr. Janarthanam and his team. And for, I think, close to 8-10 years, no other population was known. Only from one small patch of lateritic plateau, this seasonal herb was known. And then one day, when we were actually traveling from Kutigaon back home, and we were driving past the lateritic plateaus, which as I was mentioning earlier, jetting into the sea. So while the team was looking for new populations, they hadn't really explored plateaus which are very close to the coast, because probably there was an assumption that this would be found in the foothills. And believe me, we found a huge patch right on a lateritic plateau, which was a stone's throw away from the sea. And then, of course, the team went out and found more. So this is now known only from Goa, but we are hoping that there'll be some population somewhere in Karnataka as well. Quite a few Sicilians have been described from Goa, and I won't get into the names. Nirmal has done some good work on Sicilians across the state. Just a few glimpses. There's Madhayensis. I'm named after Madhai, after Goa. This is named after one of our good friends and ACF now from the Forest Department, Paresh Parab. Again, the Netravali leaping frog. So you're finding a lot of species unique to Goa. Another frog. This is Goichi. This is very tiny little frog, Gomantaki. Spiders as well. And I don't have it on the list, but
go back to
sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry.
The one before this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is just a glimpse of the new species found in a small state, just to kind of reiterate the uniqueness of this place, and why more surveys, why more documentation is required. Even a spider, for that matter. Then a cicada has been described from Goa by the team from NCBS. This is the smallest cicada known from the Ghats. That's why it's named Minuta. The Goa University has also described a gecko, which is found in found on again very close to the coast in dwelling units. I think Nitin and his team has done that work. So a lot of new discoveries happening. I have been fortunate to describe 2 new dragonflies for the state. This is Cyclocompus flavoannulatus, named because of this yellow annular ring that it has. And then Idionyx gomantakensis, named after the old name of Goa. Yeah, so quite a few. And then, of course, this is a parasitic wasp, which was described by ZSI and for some reason named after me. So this was Kudacrumia, species. So again, the whole point of showing all these, and this is not the only one. There are more. That Goa is unique, and new, very systematic studies, institutional effort is needed if we have to document. For example, just to give you a context about what I was saying earlier, that through the biodiversity board, PBRs are being done. I don't think a PBR is going to document a microscopic wasp. I think we need proper taxonomic surveys, to document all this diversity. Right. Having set the context, let me take you on a like a walk through the forests, if you can call it that. Personally, for me, the monsoons and the post monsoons are the season of plenty. If anybody is interested in wildlife in Goa, has to come during the monsoons and the post monsoons. That doesn't mean that you don't see wildlife later, but this is the season of plenty. These are rock balsams that you see, and they're just amazing. Any stream in our forests will have these rock balsams, especially a little higher, in higher altitude areas. This is the kind of flower carpets that you would see during the post monsoons. Many of these, I'm sure many of you have seen this in different places. But yeah, Goa also has these floral carpets. Harni, again, this is just glimpse of what you would see in the monsoons and the post monsoon. Quite a few Ceropegias. The one on your left is Ceropegia fantastica. We have been seeing this. This was thought to be rare. It is rare, of course, but we have been finding, pockets of populations across, the midlands of Goa. Again, the midlands are the most exploited in terms of, whether it's industry, whether it's housing, whether it's agriculture, and this is where Ceropegia fantastica is found. I think Shivaji University, Dr. Yadav had done some amazing work in terms of growing this in vitro, and actually planting seedlings across the length of the Ghats. Similar, I think, activity probably needs to be repeated. Amazing flowers. People have seen them. They are called Kandil Pushpa in Marathi because of the shape that they have, and they have this. If you look at the image on the right, can you see those fine hair? So they are amazing tricksters. So they'll attract insects to enter into the flower for taking nectar, and because of those hair, downward pointing hair, the insect cannot escape out. It can go down, but it cannot come out. The flower traps the insect till it gets pollinated. Once it gets pollinated, the flower droops, the hair become flaccid, and then the insect can move out. So such amazing how plants also have evolved. So this is the Ceropegias or the Kandil Pushpa. Some beautiful orchids we have here. This is called the dancing doll orchid. A picture doesn't do justice to this. You have to see it with your own eyes, because when this flower moves, in gentle breeze, they look absolutely amazing. A slow motion video is something that I probably should have put, but it's amazing. These are arboreal orchids. They grow on trees, and for some reason, at least that's my observation, and people can give their comments and differ with me. I've always seen them on old mango trees, were planted then, probably by the British, by the Portuguese, as avenue trees around roads. And now with road widening, many of these trees are being cut down, and we don't know whether new trees will be planted. So in Amboli, there was this 5, 6 trees which were cut down. So we tried to salvage these orchids and try to plant them somewhere else. But we have realized that they somehow, for some reason, are prefer mango trees as their hosts. So yeah, so these are habanerias and a few more. So unlike the general notion that orchids are arboreal and grow on trees, there are a lot of ground orchids as well. And again, post monsoon is the best time to see them. We have been documenting, and I want to take names, because it's more important to appreciate the beauty. So this is Peristylus on your right, Habaneri on your left, and all these are grow on open grassy tops or lateritic plateaus. Again, why lateritic plateaus are important, or our orchids grow there. These are root parasites, two beautiful species, tiny little ones. One on the right kind actually grows quite big. And then, of course, the insectivorous Droseras or the sundews. You can see on the left, uh, the sticky arms. So the insect gets attracted. You can actually see these black spots on the left side. On the arms are basically tiny insects which have got attracted to the honeydew, and then they get trapped. And then the plant basically takes nutrients from these insects. So these are insectivorous plants, again growing on lateritic plateaus. So and then the diversity that we see during monsoons is amazing. This is a Scolopendra. It is a very painful bite. Tarantulas, amazing species. This is also a time for insects. Amazing diversity. You will have of insects, all kinds of insects in monsoons. This is a mango stem borer, a longhorn beetle. Again, one group which we try to explore, but we need more expertise within the state to be able to identify these two species level. There are some, Dr. Ghati from Pune has been helping us, but this is one very interesting group and needs more explorations because they are also economically important species. Beaver ants here, again, amazing cooperative hunters. You can see the size of the prey. They've caught a catidid all by themselves, and they actually dismembered it, all the legs were torn apart, the wings were, taken apart. Amazing cooperative hunters. I think just a second, I'll just go to no, I don't have the next slide. So this is a ant, and of course the insects that they milk for honeydew, the mealybugs, aphids, sorry, in this case. So there is a very interesting assassin bug which looks exactly like this ant. There's a lot of mimicry that happens in the in the wild, and the assassin bug I've seen moving in the ant colony and actually picking up ants. So it's amazing how the ants get fooled just by a simple bug. This is the jumping ant. Again, these don't live in colonies. These are individual in behavior, and they actually jump and catch their prey. I've seen one ant actually jump and catch a moth. So that's amazing, how they do it just with those long mandibles that you see. Also, this is very, very interesting. I'm again, I probably, many of you have heard this story before. This is an ant, and that offshoot that you see from its head is actually a fruiting body of a fungus. So these are entomopathogenic fungus, fungus which feed on insects. And it's just not ants. Ants, for some reason, seem to be the most preferred host, but I've seen them, on cicadas, on spiders, and this the fungus actually grows within the body of the insect, controls the behavior of the insects. That's amazing as far as I'm concerned. And how it manages to do that is an absolute crazy thing. And then when the time comes for the insect to die, so in this case the ant, The fungus directs the ant to move to the tallest position or the highest position rather. And that is where the ant, and they basically are controlled by the fungus. That's why they are called zombies, the zombie ants. And the ant actually moves to the highest position, wherever it is in its landscape. There it gets fixated, it dies there, and then the fungus, gives out this fruiting body that you see in on the frame, and from where the spores are released. So it's just amazing. The spores need to be obviously released from a higher vantage position so that they spread, through air dispersal. So it's amazing how the fungus controls, the behavior of an insect. And yes, we have got most of the species of snakes here, all the big four, and of course the king cobra. This is the Russell's viper. Again, many of the species that I've put here are, called the lateritic plateaus, their homes. Again, habitat which is really threatened. This is the flying snake. Beautiful markings. And the hump nose. Now, this is a story that needs to be told. This species is found, we were talking about that dividing line between the northern and the southern Sahyadris. This species is found it's been reported from Tilari, that's northern Maharashtra, or other southern Maharashtra, bordering Goa. But the real distribution starts from Goa southwards. So, for example, within Goa also, it's not very often seen in the extreme north. You come down south, slowly move towards Bhagwan Mahavir, and then you start seeing this more often. Beautiful species. And then, of course, there's research going on. If you should read a little bit more on this, that the antivenom that we have right now, they say that it doesn't work on the venom of the pit viper, the hump nose especially. But till date, at least I have not heard of any fatalities in Goa or anywhere else. We know a very good friend who passed away, and a very good birder, Heinz Lehner, who was once bitten by this snake while birding. And he used to tell us the story that he felt intoxicated for a couple of days. He slept out 2 complete days, but then he recovered. His leg had swollen up and all, but it wasn't really fatal except for the swelling and the pain. So we don't know still about the efficacy or the toxicity of its venom. That's something that you can actually read up. And of course, the Malabar pit viper. Of course, the species name has changed now. We have 3 species across the Western Ghats. What we have here is still the Malabar pit viper, though. For people who, I'm sure most of you have seen this, but these are called pit vipers because you can actually see the pit between the nostril and the eye. And these are heat sensing pits. So these are, very evolved species, ambush predators. They'll sit in one place and wait for a prey to come close. They can actually, just by the body temperature, sense the difference in species. So that's very, very unique. They are very evolved species. This one again, genetic work now has split this wine snake. It's actually considered a complex. So Ayatullah Nasuta, as it was called, now is known only from Sri Lanka. What we have here now is Borealis, and then we have Malabaricus down, and so on and so forth. So I think, if I'm not wrong, in the entire country there are now 7 species, of the wine snake. Again, this is a diurnal snake, active in the day. All kinds of. Luckily, in Goa, we have a great network of rescuers. And these days people don't usually kill snakes, because their rescue guys are available on a phone call. So that's a good sign. this is the cat snake, and this is not how it looks, because this is a image taken with backlit flash. But again, a beautiful species. Um, in our homestay in Talde, we get these two species, the cat snake and the wolf snake, on a regular basis, looking for geckos. So our guests are fortunate enough to regularly see these two species. So this is one species that is there across. Another endemic species to the Ghats, the Malabar gliding frog. Um, this one is, I mean, the population is quite stable. I mean, we don't really have numbers to see it, but we see it across the state. In some cases, breeding in shallow pools, that are created these days. That's a very interesting phenomena. The motto, or the shed that is put on the, in front of the homes. These days, earlier they used to put the coconut leaves or stuff like that. Now with the coconut leaves, or people also put plastic sheets, and the plastic sheets, when it rains, creates these small puddles, and then we have seen gliding frogs nest in those puddles, in plastic sheets, in people's homes. So yeah, so this is of course endemic species. It's range restricted, but I guess the population is quite stable. This is the Ambuli bush frog, discovered from Ambuli, but I guess its densities are much more in Goa. Uh, Again, this is a backlit image. So this is not only found in the forests, but I live by the coast, in the city of Vasco. In the monsoons, I hear it from my window, bang on the coast. So it's quite well distributed throughout the state, and again, prefers bushy areas, and undergrowth. And it has a very unique nesting habitat. I mean, habit also, that the entire development of the uh, frog happens within the egg case. It doesn't have a free swimming tadpole. And I hope I have an image of the, I think, no. If I have, you'll see it, of the development of the frog that happens within the egg. So when the frog actually emerges out of the egg, it emerges as a small froglet, with all its eyes and limbs and, everything developed. Because they primarily, the egg is laid on moss-laden trees. Eggs are not laid in water. Another interesting frog, Nyctibatrachus, or the night frog, or called the wrinkled frog, or also called the diamond-eyed frog. If you look at the eye, you see the diamond-shaped eye. Has a unique breeding behavior again. On your left, you'll see it that males will take this vantage position above the streams, on leaves or on sticks or on rocks, and start calling, and the female then chooses the best performing male, or the best vantage position. The female lays eggs, the male fertilizes. As you know, in frogs, the fertilization is external, and then these tadpoles, they hatch and they drop into the water. Till that time, the male actually sits, around the egg mass, and supposedly guards the eggs. Now, that is probably the perception that it guards the eggs, but I have a different opinion. I think it's just the position that the frog is interesting in, because once one female has laid eggs, the male, still keeps on calling for other females, and we have seen, the same male, having 2 or more clutches. So it's the position that's more important for the frog than the egg mass. So I don't think the male really guards the eggs. Though in some species down south, the male is known to keep the eggs moistened. It actually, sprinkles water on the eggs. So they probably do take care of the eggs, but don't really necessarily guard them. Yeah, the chameleon, of course, I think I've seen it only 2 or 3 times. I think it's there everywhere. Of course, it's there everywhere, but one of the most difficult species to see. If anybody, we conduct wildlife nature tours. So people ask, can we see a chameleon? I think if somebody asks me, can you show me a hump-nosed pit viper? I'll probably, give him a chance. But chameleon, it's a big no. So yeah, but we're fortunate to see it 2 or 3 times. I think twice crossing the road. I think probably a similar experience might be shared by many of the participants here. That I have, at least of the 3 times that I've seen it in Goa, twice I've seen it crossing the road, and once I found a dead one. So yeah, there's the 4th time. This is the banded gecko. Again, a beautiful species, a creature of the night and the monsoons, of course. And then the flying lizard, or draco. You can see the beautiful patagium that it has. It glides from trees to trees, and followed by the flying snake. So yeah, beautiful species. The summers is a better time to see this more than the monsoons, when um, you know the the canopies are little open, the leaves are less. You actually see them glide from one tree to another, and that's also happens to be the breeding time. So they chase each other, the males especially. And this is, again, a picture doesn't do justice to what you see. This is the bioluminescence. And then, I mean, we have the mushrooms as well. This is a tree, in Bhagwan Mahavir, which is, around 3.5–4 feet, it's lit. So, the first time we saw it, we were on a road, a mud road, and using our torches to look for frogs and snakes. And through the corner of our eyes, we saw something glowing inside, even when we were holding the torches. That's the time when we switched our torches off and started looking in. And then we actually, walked in and found this tree. Just crazy, one of my friend took his mother to, show this phenomena, and she actually got scared. She said she's not getting closer. So that's the kind of, but it's amazing. I mean, um, bioluminescence, people get intrigued. People think that it's a rare phenomena, but let me tell you that, uh, in our Western Ghats, in the forests, if you know where to look for it, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's there across the length and breadth of our Ghats. You just need to know where to look for it. And of course, switch off your torches, when you're walking in the night, because that's what we don't do. So yeah, so then, and there's so many other. I mean, we have seen bioluminescent, grubs. So it's bioluminescence is amazing phenomena. This is cold light, by the way. So nature produces cold light, whereas the light that we as humans have produced it's something that releases heat. I think the the day we crack this puzzle, and create cold light, I think probably some of these climate change issues could be sorted out. And then, people somehow, when they're walking in the forest, try to somehow neglect fungus and mushrooms. But they're really, really beautiful. They're really interesting, play a very important role in our ecosystem, of course. But they can be an excellent, subjects for photography also, because they don't run away, you see. So you can experiment. These are cup mushrooms. And then this is something that you need to see. Again, some of all the pictures that I am showing you sometimes don't do justice to what you actually see, and witness with your own eyes. This is a bracket mushroom sporing, thousands and millions and millions of tiny little spores are being released by this bracket fungus. And you don't see it generally until and unless you position your torch in a particular position, and I mean, it's really beautiful. I mean, this is, again, it happens when the mushroom matures, and usually happens post monsoon, so that's something that needs to be witnessed. Right, that doesn't mean, I'm showing you all kinds of stuff, all tiny stuff. That doesn't mean that we don't have large mammals. This is the gaur, the state animal of Goa. We also, of course, have the tiger, though some may deny it. Um, we have a population of tigers across. We are adjacent to the Kali Tiger Reserve, to the Tilari forests of Maharashtra. So, and there's tiger movement across these forests. So we do have tigers. But I love this cat. Let me tell you, I mean, leopards are amazing. This young female, we spent around 10 minutes with her in Kotigaon Sanctuary. And for those 10 long minutes, her eyes did not move from us. I mean, I cannot probably explain in words the feeling that we had that day. This was dusk, just getting dark, and this female comes to a small water hole, freezes to the ground when we saw it first, and when she saw us, initially. There was a girl, a volunteer from Bangalore with me, who couldn't, at around what, maybe 30 feet, 35 feet, couldn't see such a big animal until it moved. So that's the kind of camouflage it has. And then it went to the water hole, drank water, walked to a tree, groomed herself. 10 minutes she was with us, and for not a single second, her eyes moved away from us. So it's amazing experience. This is the only time I've seen a leopard in the day, but I'm happy that I've seen it in Goa. Bird diversity, like I was saying earlier, 490 species, quite a few endemics around, I think, if I'm not wrong, around 18 or 19 species of endemics. This is the Malabar grey hornbill. This is a common species, for everybody. But recent trends are telling us that, the numbers, the sightings are going down. Even eBird data, if you look at, for some reason, the numbers are going down, and we need to really look at what the reasons could be. Another jewel from the Ghats, the Oriental dwarf kingfisher. Now, yeah, so this is a mystery for me. It's known to be a migrant coming from down south, breeding in our Western Ghats. It, of course, does breed in our Western Ghats, but Goa, you see it 12 months of the year, breeding as well as non-breeding. So I wonder if it really, of course, there is local movement. We know that. But does it really, is it a long distance migrant, or that's a different population? Is a question that probably needs answers. But yeah, if you want to see the Oriental dwarf kingfisher in a season other than monsoons, then Goa is the place to come. The brown fish owl, again, some of these rare sightings when you see it in the day. Beautiful species. One bird that everybody wants to come and see, the trogon. Every bird watcher, this bird is on the menu, so to say. This is the flame-throated bulbul. It's the state bird of Goa. Again, like the hump-nosed pit viper, the real distribution of this species, starts from Goa, and it's also seen in southern Maharashtra, Tilari area. So this is the flame-throated bulbul, endemic. Earlier considered to be a subspecies of the black-headed bulbul, but now a separate species. Another endemic, the Malabar parakeet, also called the blue-winged parakeet earlier. Rufous babbler. So this is another very interesting species. In our area, we have never seen this bird below 600 meters. Or 600 meters or below, maybe 500 meters and below. Even in Amboli, you see it, say around 800 meters. Where there's this scrub kind of forest. But I've seen it in Mangalore down south at nearly sea level. So I don't know why, and what are the, preferences of this bird to be seen only at a higher altitude in Goa, and at lower altitudes, not very far. Mangalore is not really far from Goa, so it's another question that needs some answers. Vultures, okay, this is so I refer to vultures as locally extinct. We don't see vultures in Goa anymore. There was a time when we had colonies of both the white-rumped and the Indian vulture. I personally, with friends, we documented or monitored a colony of Indian vultures for only 4 years. Till I think the last individual was sighted in 2009, and after that nothing. So of course, locally, these vultures, which were in Goa, used to migrate up Ghat during the uh, monsoons, to escape the rains, and then come back in the winters to nest in Goa. So that's how their movement is to happen. So every time, a few less would come into Goa for nesting. There were 4 nests earlier, then there was only one, and then there were none. So locally, vultures are extinct from the state, and yeah, I don't know. The largest butterfly in the country, the southern birdwing. Again, Goa is home to the largest as well as the smallest. That is the grass jewel. The grass jewel, I think, is around a centimeter or so, uh, and I've never seen it fly above knee height. Always in the undergrowth, always in the grasses. But a beautiful little species. So we have the largest and the smallest in the Ghats and in Goa. Another endemic species, the Tamil lacewing. Yeah, so Goa has 254 documented species, but the numbers are different, and of course, that's another story to be told. But that's a long story. I'll quickly summarize it. That, like I was saying earlier, Goa has not really been well documented. So uh, the list that was compiled for the state of Goa was based on um, possible assumptions, or that a butterfly which is found in Karnataka and Maharashtra should be found in Goa. But that assumption also brought in a lot of dryland species into our list, which we have not seen for the last 2.5 decades, because Goa doesn't really have dryland areas like Maharashtra and Karnataka. Uh, but there was also an assumption that the southern Western Ghats species wouldn't be found in Goa. And that is an assumption that we are breaking now, because of the 14 odd species that are new records for the state, 95% are southern Western Ghat endemics. So the list needs a huge updation, a lot of species to be added and a lot of species to be removed as well. But that's a longer story for some other time. This is the Nawab, the common Nawab. So there is a interesting, I'm sure you all know that butterflies have been given very amazing names. Um, we have the Nawabs, we have the Rajas, we have the Barons, we have the Dukes, we have the Sergeants, and then we have the nigger, for example, or the cool. There's this racial overtone on the names of some of the butterflies. And then, we're trying to, of course, change those names. The nigger is not called the nigger anymore. It's called the Midas Bush Brown and stuff like that. So we're changing names. But, I have a, interesting perspective. I think when the British named the Nawabs and the Rajas, there was a racial connotation to that as well. Because the Rajas and the Nawabs, for people who know butterflies, very rarely come to nectar or to anything that is fermented. They come to anything that is foul smelling, including human feces. Okay, so they come to animal droppings, they'll come to anything that smells bad, right? So probably a indirect jibe at the Nawabs and the Rajas then by the British. I'm not saying that we need to change the names, but just a perspective for everybody. Food for thought. The Malabar banded peacock, one of our most, I would say, handsome, butterfly from the Ghats, endemic species. The Malabar tree nymph, now this one is the official state butterfly of Goa. So yeah, so Goa, like many of the other states, Goa has declared its state butterfly, and I'm happy it's the Malabar tree nymph because it's a excellent representative of the riparian forests. The host plant that it lays eggs on grows along forest streams, so it's an excellent indicator species. And then don't even ask me the names, the moth, and I don't know them, by the way. So moths are probably 10 times more than butterflies, or even more, I guess. And I think we need to, this is one group that needs to be looked at. Um, but unfortunately, they are not as easy to identify as butterflies, I guess. But there is work happening in other parts of the country. So hopefully, somebody will take interest in this group as well. Many people, when we ask them what's the difference between a butterfly and a moth, will say that, butterflies look beautiful, moths don't look beautiful. Well, I show them this picture. This is the uh, golden emperor moth. One of my most favorite moths, even better looking than, the atlas or the moon moth. I like this much, much better. Dragonflies are my personal interest, of course, and I look at them. And so when we actually started looking at dragonflies in 2008, there were only 22 species known from the state. So actually a friend of ours asked me whether I know how many species of dragonflies are found in Goa, and I said absolutely no idea. But we used to take pictures, right? So he said there are 22 species. So then we realized we have got more pictures. So we spent around an year um, looking at dragonflies, trying to get in touch with people who would identify, and that has taken me on a very interesting journey. And I've made some great friends. These So within a year, we added 35 new records, and 5 new families. And I think, I mean, no, I don't think, I know that the primary reason was that the earlier surveys were not done in forested areas, so the mostly wetlands were covered. And now there are 90, which are published, but we know that there are 108, and we are in the process of, writing a updated checklist for the dragonflies of Goa. So yeah. So this is Brachythymis contaminata. If you read the name, this again is a very great indicator of contaminated water. It doesn't mean that wherever you see these species, that the water is contaminated. It breeds in clear water as well. But in a pond, let us say, you don't see other species, but see more of the ditch jewel, then you know that there's something wrong with the water. So dragonflies are amazing indicators of the health of the wetland because they breed in them. And uh, I think it's before even testing water and looking at chemical analysis, it's important to look at indicator species, their presence and absence. Some beautiful dragonflies from area. This is an interesting species because it is seen only in the summers for a couple of months. Then for the entire rest 10 months, you don't see this species. So end March, April, May is when you start seeing the adult on wing. That probably means that, not probably, it means that the rest of the month, it's either in the egg or the larval form, underwater, and it lays eggs in flowing streams. This is the stream ruby. Some bamboo tails for you. Kakunuras. Okay. Right. So this is. Am I okay on time, Anand? They've lost track. Okay. Right. So dragonflies. I think need to be looked at more closely, primarily because like I said, they are amazing indicators. Just the presence and absence of these species can tell us about what's happening to our wetlands. I'll give you an example. There's a species called the Malabar torrent dart. It's called the torrent dart because it lays eggs in flowing streams, and then we used to regularly see it in a certain patch of a river. And then when the bandharas are put, where the water gets stagnated, you immediately stop seeing them. They've all moved upstream. So that's the point to make here is that dragonflies are amazing indicators. Even as we speak today, we are speaking about numbers. So India has around 500 species. I think we know the life cycle of probably less than 50. That's a huge gap, because what people like us are doing is we are documenting species. We are looking at counting the number of species that we have. That's the first step. we're not looking at, their breeding biology, we're not looking at their ecology, we're not looking at, what are their niche requirements, what kind of water does it lay eggs in, how does it decide what kind of water to lay eggs in, is it temperature dependent, is it the flow of the water? Yes, Anand?
What is the number of damselflies in the country and in Goa?
Damselflies, I'll have to count, but the total odonate species is 500 in the country. I think South India would have 200 plus, and Goa has around 108 as of now. Right. So um, I think I've spoken enough. I think, initially I spoke about that connect with the forest. So, forests have, shaped me and molded me. So the forests have also, sometimes when I get into the mood, I write poems as well. So, and I would like to read out a small poem to you and end my presentation. Okay. So I think everybody can read. So I'm not a great uh, poet, or I can't really narrate my poem myself. So okay, so this is how it goes. That the monsoon was fast approaching, dark gathered over skies.
Parag, you
The
might need to
mystic
change
woods
the slide.
beckoned me to come to their abode and fly.
Parag,
Hello?
are you going to project
Yeah.
the? Yeah, can see. Thanks.
Visible? Okay, okay. So, I got a phone call. Okay, yeah. So the monsoon was fast approaching. Dark clouds spread over the skies. The mystic woods beckoned me to come to their abode and fly. Out I sat with my camera to capture living beauty. I did not foresee was the magic of the woods and its majesty. I followed the birds and the butterflies, unmindful of the jungle moods. Within no time, I found myself lost in the woods. I was scared, knowing not what to do. Mother Nature told me not to be scared and be true. She said she would guide me and tell me what to do. The dark wood and the bees I found to be friends. How unlike humans who turn foes and rarely friends. I had water to drink and fruits to eat, leafy cushion to sleep and rocks to sleep. My friends in the woods allowed me to be the first to enter the river and quench thirst. How happy was I to experience this mood. I hope all of you one day get lost in the woods. So thank you guys. Thank you for patiently listening to me, and I hope I have not bored you. All right. So I'll stop sharing, and I would love to take any questions and try and answer them.
That was absolutely fantastic, Parag. Please take a sip of water. There are a whole bunch of questions and some really interesting ones which have come up. Of course, a lot of compliments also to your photography. And once you're ready,
Yeah.
I can throw the whole
Absolutely,
volley of
absolutely.
questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So Manish Chandi is saying super pictures and fantastic information you shared. Thank you, Parag. Same with
Thank you.
Asha Kumbarji and several others. Okay, so if you've taken your sip of water, I'll.
I have.
Okay,
Ready.
great. So
I'll of course ask for your help to answer some of the questions as well.
okay. So Sandhya Kakkar is asking, why are tall trees so few? It's not even a high altitude, and why grasslands are prominent in Goa? Is that true or not so?
Well, that's not completely true. So, of course, we do have tall trees. The images that I showed you were representative habitats. I was trying to emphasize the uniqueness of Goa. So, the grassland tops, you will see across. If you go to South India, for example, southern Western Ghats states, you will see huge trees on in the lower elevations and in the mid areas of the hills. And the higher altitude would be the grassland tops. So that's what you see in Goa as well in patches. It's not as prominent as the Shola forests down south.
Okay. Uh, Another question also by Sandhya Kakkar was it's hotspot of biodiversity endemic to rare species. I don't know if that was a question or a comment, but would you like to sort of highlight what is a hotspot and how rare and endemic species relate with a hotspot?
Oh, well, I mean, I, personally, if you ask me, I don't really like that word hotspot, frankly, because you know, each location has its own uniqueness. So I don't think we should.
Maybe Parag, you can switch your video off. I think you're having internet issues.
No. Yeah. No. I think if this happens when I get phone calls.
Okay,
So-
okay, right.
I'm on hotspot on the phone, unfortunately.
So that
yeah, I was saying
hotspot
that,
is taking over this hotspot. Fine. Okay.
yes. So so I was saying that hotspots are primarily identified, based on the uniqueness of that area. For example, endemism is, one criteria. Rare and threatened species is another criteria. So wherever there are, rare and threatened species, that area then becomes important from conservation point of view. And, that's why the focus about hotspots and stuff. So yes, Goa, I would say the entire state is a hotspot because it's got rare and threatened species everywhere. It's got endemism, very high endemism. So I mean, entire Western Ghats is a hotspot for that matter. if that answers the question.
Yeah. If I can add, Parag over here, actually, Dr. Jay Samant, who was part of the team which formulated the whole hotspot plan, he said that there is a misnomer. We have a misunderstanding of the word hotspot. The word hotspot doesn't mean that it's a biodiversity haven. It actually means the opposite. It means that there are a lot of threats, and that area is under kind of fire, and it can get destroyed when there are a lot of threats in that area. So the word hotspot is used in that.
Yeah, for that matter, actually, you're right, Anand, that when IUCN also looks at hotspots, threats is also looked at as one of the criteria. So you're right, absolutely.
Right. So of course, there are multiple compliments. Rahul Palekar says each photo is more surreal than the last. So yeah. Manish has asked a very, very interesting question. What do you know? What is the ecological or biological functions of bioluminescence? Why are creatures bioluminescent?
So I think we always, whenever we take people out on walks and show them bioluminescence, this is one question that comes up. Okay, and I don't think I have a very convincing answer to it, but bioluminescence, I think one thing is for sure, when it comes to fireflies and your glowworms, it's basically it's bioluminescence in that case is used for signaling. So that's very clear. In case of the fungi, there is examples from the Amazonian forests where a certain click beetle gets attracted to the bioluminescent fungus and then helps in dispersal of spores, right? In this case, where the mycelium itself is bioluminescent. So mycelium basically is a vegetative part of the fungus, right? It doesn't have spores. So this question, I don't have a very convincing answer, but I think probably that it is obviously to attract insects, not necessarily for spore dispersal, because spore dispersal in case of fungus, is more effectively done by wind, right? So why would a particular fungus need an insect to carry its spores from one area to other when the air can spread it much faster? I think probably there is some relationship in terms of the insect feeding on the mycelium and passing through the gut of the insect and then probably getting this property. I mean, this is a hypothesis, needs probably to be tested.
If I may add, Parag, to this.
Yes.
Actually, bioluminescence has different roles depending on where it happens. In case of deep sea fishes, etc., it's largely communication, finding mates, or sometimes even scaring predators, That is the common thing. But in case of fungi, especially the ones which are saprophytic, or decomposing fungi, it's believed that the in the process of the bioluminescence, it creates antioxidants, which help in the breaking down of lignin. And that we can see it and it's visual to us, has got no function. These creatures evolved millions of years ago before humans ever existed on the planet, and we can only see a very limited range of light. So actually there are parts of bioluminescence that so many other creatures are actually bioluminescent, and maybe scorpions, maybe owls, maybe other creatures, snails which feed on them, etc., can possibly see them, but they are not within our visible range. So that's the reason we don't know whether, because Rahul 19 had also asked that are bioluminescent plants found in the Myristica swamp. I don't think there is a recorded bioluminescent plant per se as yet. But what can be considered as bioluminescence is within human understanding of vision, and it could be very different in other parts. Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay not to know everything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the mystery. That's what your poem said. So next question is by Chinmay Goyal. He says there are some serration-like structures on the Malabar grey hornbill's beak. What are they for?
Serration-like structures on the beak. I mean, the inside part is probably what he meant. Yeah, that's basically for grip. So when it's feeding, if I've understood the question correctly, the serrations are basically for gripping its because they're known to feed not only on fruits. They'll catch a snake, they'll catch a gecko, I've seen them feed on Malabar gliding frogs, and they need the serrations to hold on to their prey.
Next question is by Amruta Padgaonkar. She's asking, is the decline in the vulture population also related to diclofenac?
Yeah, I mean, I think diclofenac was the original reason, but a friend of mine and basically did a survey in the Sindhudurga district. So since you're asking this question, I'll just give you a different perspective. So what happened was diclofenac then was readily available off the shelf. Okay, and so he did a little bit of a survey in the Sindhudurga district to look at whether it's easily available and whether the doctors are administering diclofenac. So he found that diclofenac is readily available off the shelf, and human diclofenac is also being used and all that. So yes, diclofenac probably is yeah. So instead of having the bigger vials, they would have more number of vials. So that's what they used to do. Yeah, but because it's a cheap drug anyway. But I think diclofenac, of course, was the reason. But I think what has happened after that is that because vultures have suddenly gone down, this tradition of dumping dead carcasses on the in open lands, on the borders of villages, that also kind of stopped. So because and then the doctors themselves started prescribing that the carcass be buried instead of being dumped in the open. Add this to also the skinning which was done by a certain community. That community also doesn't do that anymore. So all these factors have I think resulted in the vulture population decline. Diclofenac, yes, was the original reason, but I think lack of food also probably is area of concern, especially in our landscape. Maybe central India where the prey base is much larger, where there are large carnivores, feeding and stuff. I don't think our area probably food also is a area of concern. Yeah.
Yeah, Parag, I'll say conserve your resources. There are a whole bunch of questions, so you can answer in shorter ones if you want.
Sure.
There are quite a bunch of questions that are there. But Amruta has given
you pick the important ones.
Yes. Amruta has given a very poetic, comment to your Krishna peacock picture. She said it's like galaxy on wings, so you may be able to call it like that. The Malabar Papilio.
I think I'm losing you. I think
hello?
I just lost you for the hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'll just switch off my video just for the
I think
bandwidth.
I can do that. Please switch off your video. Yeah. Can you hear
Yeah,
me now?
yeah.
So Amrita was saying for the Malabar peacock papilio that she gave a compliment, poetic compliment, saying it's galaxy on wings.
Oh, nice. I think,
Rahul,
there's just yesterday, there has been a nice report. I mean, Anand has been part of it. There's Hindi names have been coined for butterflies. And I think that's a wonderful exercise, very wonderful exercise. The names that have been given also have very strong grounding to them. So, yeah, good job.
thank you. Yeah.
And what is the Malabar banded peacock called? Mayuri, right?
Yeah.
I think so, something like that.
Yeah. Rahul 19 has asked the next question. Which were the species you found in ample amount in Goa before about a decade ago, and now they are either low in number or possibly extinct according to you, and what may be the prime reasons? Parag, could you hear me? Parag, you can hear me?
Yeah. And somebody's desperately trying to call. So,
Okay. Did you get my question or should I repeat?
yeah. I think I understood. What I'll just kind of, if I understood it correctly, was that, has any species declined in number, right? Over the years?
Correct. But which were the abundant species in the past and they're either extinct or and have or dropped drastically besides vultures, and what could be the reason?
Okay, so one thing is very clear. I mean, first thing I'd like to comment here is that we don't really have very good data to, speak about numbers. Okay, so that's one gray area. But we do have data for the for birds, especially wetland birds, because every year for the last decade or so, we have been counting the wetland birds, through the Asian waterfall count, the annual waterfall count that happens. And we have realized that the migrant ducks, which come to Goa, their numbers have gone down drastically. For example, pintails, which we used to, I mean, I have personally counted 20,000 pintails in one wetland at one point in time. Now, I think the counts are around maybe 6,000, 7,000. For a new birder, it appears to be a good population. But for people like us, who have seen this decline, we are very, very sure that, numbers have gone down. The reasons, multifold, including climate change, I guess, is not getting as cold as, probably it used to be, in there.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Shall I take the next question?
Yeah.
So Amrita has asked again that as you mentioned, the myth of finding southern Western Ghats species in Goa is now being busted. Is it because of more intensive surveys and studies that records are now prominent, or is it some range extension because of some climate reasons?
No. I think the first stands true that more people are looking for a species. There are more eyes on the ground now than there were a few years back. So I think that's the only the survey effort is what I would put it to. Is why I think more discoveries are being made. Yeah.
Also, Parag, you would agree with me that whether it is Goa, Karnataka, Maharashtra, these are political boundaries and not ecological boundaries.
Correct.
I think if we look at the eco zones and survey more, we might actually find some of the species being distributed across the borders, like you're seeing in Telangana.
100%. 100%. I mean, there is one species which till very recently, the northernmost area was, around Coorg. Okay. And now we have found it in Amboli.
Which one is this? If you
this is the, sorry.
If you can disclose.
This is Epithemis Marie. This is what is the common name? Yeah, that's a problem with me these days with dragonflies. So Epithemis is the species, or it's a dragonfly found in Kurg and now found in Amboli. No records in between.
Right.
Okay, so it's a huge gap, right? Including Goa, we have not seen it in Goa.
But are you doing kind of genetic studies to see whether they are say
It is the same. It is the same. Yeah, that's already done. I
okay,
think it's the
great,
same.
right.
It's the same. Yeah.
Okay. Prithviraj Sawant has asked a very basic question. So what is the difference between a moth and butterflies? If you want to answer, otherwise I'll take the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say no, but yeah, so I think the basic stuff is that, moths as a rule are nocturnal in their habit. But of course, there are exceptions, and butterflies are, diurnal. They are active in the day. The best way, to separate a butterfly and a moth is to look at the antenna. The butterflies will have, very thread-like antenna, more like a hockey stick, with a curve at the end, whereas moths have feathery antennas. So the best way to tell them apart is to look at the antennas. And there are, of course, other differences. Butterflies can sit with their, wings closed and open, whereas moths cannot, close their wings completely. So yeah, so those are the
Thank you, Parag. So there's the next question. Sorry, just one second. A lot of compliments are coming up about the pictures. Rahul 19 has asked that since bioluminescent fungi is very rare, which schedule of Wildlife Protection Act is it being protected under? Would you say it is very rare, Parag?
No, it's not. Yeah, so actually when I spoke, I said that it's common across our Western Ghats.
Right.
You just need to, switch off our torches when we move in the night. Yeah, so I don't think it's rare.
Right.
But I do, yeah, that's a very interesting question. I don't think any fungi for that matter are in the schedules, so
Nice.
yeah.
I don't think so either. Yeah. So the law also needs to sort of get expanded and new things do get added in amendments.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Sandhya Kakkar has a very interesting question. She says, since Western Ghats is a large area, I was wondering whether Goa shares a major components of endemic species due to confluence of multiple habitats of various climatic dimensions.
Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, thank you for asking that question because, yeah, I'm just giving you. I think I've already given a couple of examples in terms of the Malabar, not the Malabar, sorry, your Amto Spit Viper and the flame-throated bulbul. But that is very interesting there. So we have a mix of the northern Western Ghats and the southern Western Ghats species. And I'll give you two examples. One is the Vigor sunbird, which is a northern Western Ghat endemic, which if you go to Kerala, you don't see it there. Okay, so it's found here in Goa. And then there is the Wayanad laughing thrush, for example, or the white-bellied tree pine. So which is found in Goa. It's a South Indian endemic, which is not found in Maharashtra. So Goa has a nice mix of both. Yeah, thanks for reminding me that.
Akshita has a interesting question. She says that now with progressing time and climate change and human population expansion, deforestation, etc., the only way towards conserving is establishing connection back with nature. And she's asking that can you suggest in urban landscapes how we can create satellite forests on small lands, maybe like an acre area or something? What's your suggestion about that?
I think you are in a better position to answer that.
Okay, so
yeah,
I would definitely say not Miyawaki. That may not be the best way to go ahead with. One is that you have to take a longish time scale. Don't expect results within 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years. You need to take like a 10-year time period for planning. So start with letting the herbs and the shrubs and the grasses come up. Don't go for tree plantations immediately, and let the climbers come up. And then after 2-3 years of grasslands and soil getting rebuilt over there, then maybe you can start doing some plantations of indigenous species. But you'll find that once you allow the grassland to stay for 2-3 years, then maybe trees will automatically come in to the seeds will also disperse. So it's a longish process. You have to allow the ecological succession, as they call. So that's
Anand, if I may just quickly add, my place in Amboli, and everyone is welcome to come and see that. When my dad built the house in 1981, around that time, that entire area was subjected to slash and burn. Okay, Nachni was being planted, and so there was nothing there basically except a little bit of shrubby areas. Um, Now all the trees have gone above the forest, above the house. Um, but the most interesting part is we have not planted a single tree, just protected the place. I think that's the basic thing, I mean, sometimes in the what I would say, in the enthusiasm of restoring or creating forests or whatever, we start planting trees, like what Anand said, and let the shrubs grow, let the grasses grow. So I have seen that entire succession happen, in that small 3-acre plot, where initially the grass used to grow, as tall as then as a kid we used to kind of get drowned in those grasses. Now not a single blade of grass grows because the canopy has come up. So yeah, sometimes just simple protection is good enough.
Thank you, Parag. There is a very, very interesting question that Saili has asked. What is your opinion on sharing knowledge and location of wildlife with general public? Will it help or cause exploitation and harm to the species? How do we share the wonders of nature with people and still ensure that they get protected and are safe? How do you go about with it?
Yeah, that's a trick question.
Yeah.
It's a-
Yes.
I mean, I think and there's no simple answer to it, but I think we need to be mindful about what we share and what we don't, or how much we share and how much we don't. Um, for example, showing somebody, let's say, taking people out on bioluminescence trails, let's say, that's what something that we do in Goa. I think it's absolutely fine. Because people need to, understand what bioluminescence is, or, just kind of uh, get, mesmerized by just the entire phenomena. I think that's important, to establish that connect that I was speaking about earlier. But then, maybe sharing location of a threatened species may not be a great idea, uh, because I mean, I've faced this before, and I'll share an example without giving taking names. That there was this one rare orchid, which there were around 3 or 4 um, you know saplings in a particular area, and then we took pictures, we posted, and everybody was excited and stuff like that. And then the next time we went there was only one left. Yeah, so I don't think this was picked up by somebody who just liked orchids. This was picked up systematically by probably a researcher. You know, so yes, I mean, it's not just that common people or some photographer or some wildlife enthusiast can do damage. Damage can be done by anybody and anyhow. So yeah, I think that's a very what I would say, a personal decision to make. What to share and what not to.
Yeah, on that note, Parag, I got reminded that I should also mention that our next month's lecture in April is on sea slugs of India, and like exactly similar thoughts about how protection of marine creatures should be done, because the minute a photographer group comes to know about it, whether it is birds, whether it is sea slugs, whether it's orchids, whether it is whatever, sometimes they might even tamper. There have been cases of nests being tampered for taking photographs for competitions, etc. So I think one has to be very careful. Don't pinpoint the location. You can give the general information about which area and what. Maybe sometimes even that can be protected so that people don't go and ransack that area for a photograph, which really doesn't amount to anything if you don't share it and get people to learn and respect biodiversity. Uh, so, Parag, some people have asked if your number can be shared with them. Would you rather be
Yeah,
comfortable
yeah.
with your email address or
I'm okay with the number, not a problem.
okay? I'll share the number, or Rahul will do
Just
that.
typed it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Uh, Kavita from Hyderabad is adding that thank you, Anand and Parag, for those cautious comments regarding tree planting and the fact that natural succession will bring back native plants and tree species to an area. Yeah. Kavita has been doing fantastic work in protecting, the urban, both banyans and trees in Hyderabad, and they needed excellent walks there. Uh,
Oh, lovely.
so, Parag, I had one quick question. It's almost 9:40, 7:41. If you have the energy, may I?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, okay. So, one is that
Yeah, please go ahead.
personal question is that what keeps you motivated to keep continuing doing
Hello.
surveys and the awareness activities and the documentation? Don't you get tired? What is your motivation? I think I'll ask that question first.
Frankly, I don't know. I mean, I've never thought about it like that. Just that, I think probably uh, that connect that I was talking about. So one driving force obviously is that, I personally believe that conservation, if we know what we have, it's boardrooms, we need to first know what we have, only then we will be able to protect. So that's my driver, to document. My driver towards this journey has evolved. Initially it was about photographing and enjoying wildlife, stuff like that. Then slowly it became a little more serious in terms of documenting and systematically documenting, not just documenting for the sake of it. And then you realize that when you work in especially in a country like India, where conservation cannot happen without community participation, you realize that if real conservation has to happen, the local community has to take ownership. So then how does local community take ownership, without, especially with all the market forces playing around, is to see value in uh, what is to be protected. Now, again, how do you see value? There could be different ways of looking at it. Since we work in the space of tourism, we have tried to, involve communities in creating very small tourism projects which promote nature and wildlife primarily. So in areas that we operate now, not that snake killing has completely stopped, but people now know that um, wildlife photographers or photographers come to photograph snakes. So then there'll be people from the village telling us that okay, there's a hump-nosed pit viper here, or so and so here, and that so, it has a positive impact. Man-animal conflict is a serious issue in our foothills in Goa. Today, in the village that I work in, people have abandoned paddies completely because of wild boar and gore. And then how do you keep such people interested in conservation? It's if they see value in protecting what they have. So tourism becomes one medium, and that's what we are exploring. But it could be anything else. So yeah, I think that my journey has kind of evolved over a period of time. But my motivation primarily is probably, I mean, long-term conservation. If yeah, so yeah, see, I hope what I said made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And second question is like a double edged question. So does that not sort of take away your personal family time with your family, kids, etc.? Are they also excited about it? That's one part. And secondly, is that are you optimistic about conservation in the future? Like, do you have a lot of young people joining you? If there are people from Goa, there are other people. If they want to join you, or they want to take part in getting conservation going, how would you what should they do according to you?
Ooh, long one. I mean, one thing I know from the family perspective, I would say I'm blessed because my better half, Shraddha, shares the same amount of passion. Probably she's more passionate than me in terms of conservation and all surrounding issues. So I don't I mean, she sometimes pushes me as well. So I'm blessed on that front. So yes, it does take away family time, but then sometimes when the family is together, in the forest, it works. So yeah. So from that point of view, I'm lucky. Um, whether I'm optimistic or not, I'm personally a optimistic person. So yes, I believe in creating models, Anand. I know I will not be able to change the world. Let's accept that. So then things become easier. Uh, but what I can possibly do is, create a model and showcase that, this is something that is possible. Like for example, and then it has its benefits. So this journey that I was talking about, from documentation to working with communities, now uh, being a member on the state boards, I'm also trying to influence policy. So this journey will keep on evolving, at different points in time. But uh, we need to be optimistic. I don't think there's a, uh, you know, what I would say, there's any other option that we have. On a larger scale, things don't look great. Let me also accept that. On a global scale, things are not looking great. But I think at the local level, if we create models, showcase that this XYZ can happen. For example, the homestay project, for example, it's taken 8 years for it to be recognized, and now including the government is taking notice, which is a good thing. Um, the wildlife tourism model in Amboli, for example, where self-imposed restrictions have been put by the locals themselves. I have seen tour operators and local, people from outside complaining, "We put restrictions. Why don't you let people walk around after 9:30, 10 in the night?" If market forces were driving that model, then we could have seen wildlife photographers, having, let's say, Malabar riding frog, captive on a small branch, till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night. That used to happen earlier. But the locals have got together and said that, no, this is not what we want to do. So are nice, positive, models, and they need to be showcased though. We need to speak about them. And I think the Amboli model is something to be learned from, with its plus and minus. But I think, yeah, so I believe in creating models and, showcasing. Thank you.
Thank you, Parag. So I would like to, point out that, you saw even when answering questions over here, whether it is answering a single simple question like difference between a butterfly and a moth, or, very complicated research-based questions. Parag has been absolutely sort of, untiring in his work and his efforts. And whenever anybody of us, asks him to join in, or, partner or provide his expertise on programs. Even when we go for wildlife camps, Parag is always, excited to do a dissection and show how dragonflies can be identified, how to look at, the genitalia, etc. So, that's the positive energy with which he works, and he's motivated a lot of young people in doing his work. He also works at the policy level, working with government, as a biodiversity board member. He writes extensively, he photographs and puts up his work. So, there's that wow factor also that is there. So I think, in conservation, so many different kinds of approaches are required. And the most important thing, what he's pointed out, and I would like to emphasize that again, is that, working with communities, if communities get engaged with conservation and their livelihood gets dependent with that, then they would protect nature. And Parag has really successfully, whether it is at, Amboli, or whether it is in Goa also, he's provided several families and, entire communities livelihoods through a conservative ecotourism model, not an exploitative ecotourism model, but a protective ecotourism model. So it's a really great opportunity for you. Please look up Prugaya, Amboli, and join Parag over there, as well as the homestays that are there in Goa that they have developed. You can follow him on Instagram and other social media that are there. Parag, any last words of inspiration to the participants?
Nothing specific, just that, like, the way I started, I think it's important to build connects. I think if you connect with, so, one of the things, that forests probably have taught me is to, remain humble. Uh, I think that's one takeaway, for me very clearly. It would be different for different people, but I think if you get connected with wilds, get inspired by wilds, I think you will not, you will always have energies to do something positive. Yeah. So that's my.
So I would like to add to that and say, Parag, I think collaborations like what we do together, what you
Yes,
have
absolutely,
offered
absolutely.
us together. I think, that we all hold hands, Manish is here. There is Amruta in Bangalore. There is Kavita in Hyderabad. Asha ji is also there in Goa. So I think, if we can all collaborate and work together, we can do a great job. And I would be, wrong to forget my own team, Rahul Palekar, who's recording this program and who's also created the Google form, as well as, looked at the registrations. Komal Yadav, who created the poster, and from my team, who's a new intern with us, and all the others, all of you all who joined us. So thank you so much, Parag, once again. I would request Rahul to, present the formal vote of thanks. But thank you again, and wish you a great trip tomorrow and bring us new stories.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you, thank you. I'm also looking forward to going to the dreamland called Namdapa. So yeah.
Yeah, Rahul, are you there?
Yes.
Over to you.
So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next month with a lecture on sea slugs. Thank you.
And just to remind you, in case of those who missed today's talk, we will be putting it up on our YouTube channel, the Green channel. Please follow us there and you can share it with your friends. Do join us for our next talk by Dr. Vishal Bhave. And thank you once again, Parag. And
Thank
have
you,
a
thank
good
you. Pleasure. Yeah, have a
evening.
good night, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.
See you. Bye.